I guess I'll just have to go down memory lane. I put notes here, but I don't think it'll do me
In
any
the
good.
microphone.
Well, I'm gonna start off with, I was born north of Chinook in Blaine County, close to the Canadian border. It was a hydro, they called it community hydro, in 1925. And my dad evidently couldn't make a go over there, so he was gonna make a move to Marsland. So then, he started out with a family of four girls and one boy, and we started across country. And my dad was kind of unique. He used two hay racks. One was a hay rack my mother drove, and with all the kitchen, stuff like that, and a stove in the kitchen and some bedding. The other hay rack was more or less the machinery and things for blacksmith shop and stuff like that. So I went across country. I wish now I'd asked her more about how they managed that. But I don't know how many days it took to go from the Canadian border to Larsland, Montana. But anyway, we made it there, and when we lived in Larsland, I don't know how many years, I went to school in Larsland, started going to school. But again, Dad couldn't make it there. The sand dunes were high on the fence posts, and he couldn't make it. So he heard about Fort Peck Dam, and so there he made arrangements to go to Fort Peck. So we packed up and lived. In 1932, we went into Glasgow for 1 year. I went to school there for 1 year, and so there, while we was in there, my mother would go to the relief. They had relief then, and it wasn't like they have now, where nice rooms where you go look at things and talk things. It was in the basement of somebody's home. So there we went, and she could help herself to old coats and things, and she picked up old coats, and she made us coats for the winter and clothing, and that's what she did. And Dad was on the very first crew that went out to Fort Peck to cut away the brush. Went in the back of a truck, and they went, I don't know how late they got, but when it got too cold, then he couldn't go anymore. So he helped in Glasgow doing different things. He helped with in the mortuary there a little bit. Was a little hard on him because he had a very sensitive nose, and he had to help dig people out of things where the ground slid on top of him. And but he made it. He had to make money somewhere. So then, in the spring of the year, they went out again in the back of the truck. But somehow, I don't know when he did it, he built a house at New Deal for us. We had a 2-story house, a tallest house there. So when school was out in Glasgow for us, we moved into New Deal at the Fort Peck Dam site. And while we was there, Mother took in boarders. And we always had a well in the lean-to of our house. Always. Wherever we lived at that house, we had a lean-to. And so we had different kind of borders. One of the borders was called Silver. I had to remember him. He was a kind of an alcoholic, so he would go sneak away and drain people's vehicles, because that's what they used to keep their vehicles from freezing. Was so full. He drank what they took out of there. He drank what they put in there to keep it from freezing. And he was the poor man. He was a drunk. But anyway, lots of things to tell. But now, New Deal, I don't know if you know where it is, but the road right before you go up the hill to Fort Peck, the winding road. It goes around and behind what they call they had fish hatchery or something. Now that road is still the same road they had then, and went to New Deal. And New Deal was quite a town, really, at one time. The main street on the one side, there was a theater. They had a theater there. They had different shops there, and I don't remember what all they had there. I know the one store, they had magazines in, so it could have been like a drugstore, but they had grocery stores, and they had meat shops there, and I cannot remember what all they had there, because I was at, so anyway, the theater was kind of interesting for us, but my mother took her cattle, her milk cows, wherever she went. We always managed to have that. So right on the edge of New Deal, there was some shrubbery and trees there, and the cows always had a bell on them, so we could find the cows. So there, an older sister or my mother would go there. We'd find the cows, and they'd milk them. We always had chickens also, and roosts right by our house. So those are things, no matter where we went, but we kept moving the house. Tell you about that later. Wherever we went, Dad had a pump in the lean-to or in the house. I don't know how he managed it. And we had chickens, and we had the cows. So this was in New Deal. So let's see, I don't know if I can read that anyway. Anyway, on the other side of the street, we also had a beauty shop. I don't know how many other places, garages and things. So it really was quite a town, the New Deal was. And you go on up the hill from New Deal, and there was Square Deal up there, another town, but not as large as New Deal. And when we were in New Deal, we always went to Bible school, and that we walked across up to Gallatin, and that's still there. That Gallatin church is still there. We walked up to there and to Bible school there. So after a while, Dad heard that there was a town he could go move the house to where who wouldn't have to pay rent. It was called Valley or Freetown. So right next to New Deal was Midway. So he crossed, Valley was still there. Later on, Midway wasn't there, it was all on top of the dam. So he hired Pop Davis or Glenn Davis Sr. and had 2 timbers, and he moved that 2-story house. And we moved across Midway into Valley. And I would say that it was probably a mile, really. It seemed longer, but it seemed probably just that long. And moved our house to Valley. Now Valley was one wild place. The X-Bar X, the famous X-Bar X was there. And it was really wild. And that X-Bar X is shown on the Life magazine or one of those magazines. It's still there. And they had taxi dancers there that made their money there, 10 cents a dance. And then they were to get the guys there to the bar to buy liquor. So anyway, in Valley, I went to, excuse me, let me back up to New Deal. When I was in New Deal, I went with a bunch of other kids across the hills to the barracks. There were barracks there at Fort Peck there. The barracks were for single men that would work up there at the dam. And later on it was people, families could be there, and they'd take half a barrack and live there, and they could make a home out of it. And they could share a bathroom with them also. So now we go to Valley, And there I was in the 5th grade. And really, we had quite a teacher. Her name was Miss Clark, and she taught us tap dancing and different things. It was really fun. So because our school had that program, Christmas program with our tap dancing, they asked if they could have it also in the famous X Bar X, so many people could come. So that's where they had it then. And so there I was. My mother made my little outfit with ruffles here, two-toned ruffles, and ruffles around the head, and shorts. And we tap danced, and we had ruffles around our feet. So we tap danced several things and did different dances. So that was one of the things I remember of the X Bar X that we went there. But now in Valley it was X Bar X, yes. It was a wild, terribly wild, and there was drugs. And after a while, the school quit, and they turned that school that I went to in the 5th grade into a bar and a dance hall. There we were, parked there. And I have to tell you, my sisters, my older sisters, being used to the farm, they liked pretty things. So on the upstairs, they put, instead of a bulb, a stringy bulb, and the bulb came down, they put red crepe paper around it and thought to make it pretty. So my brother, he saw that when he was outside, he dashed in the house, he says, "Take that red off there, take that red off there." They didn't know why, but it would have been a call house for people that would have seen that red on there. So that was one of the exciting things there. And my brother realized these things. My sister didn't know it, and I certainly didn't either. But then in Valley, when we moved there, we had cows already, again with us. Dad again had a pump in her lean-to, and we had the cows where the Boy Scouts area is. If you know where the Boy Scouts area is, that's where the cows were with their bells around their neck. And we would go find them, and then either my sister or my mother would go, and they'd milk the cows there. So let's see, now that was in the Valley, and my dad had a pump, gas station pump, and it was a famous, let's see, what was it? Phillips 66 is what he had. And I don't remember, I think it was 10 cents a gallon then, but it was so interesting. My sister Dell and I, we had so much fun because we played together. We didn't have hardly anybody else to play with, but we had little doll houses that we fixed up, and my mother would help us with that. And my dad had, he worked plus had that gas station. And I don't know how long that went. I don't remember. I wish now I would have asked more questions. But anyway, from Valley there, and we had a house here, and the school had been here. They turned it into a bar. We heard screaming and racing around, women running out of there with men chasing them. That's what we grew up with. We saw the wildness of it. It was terrible. But we were all so young. Mother kept us strictly close to home, which was good. So after they were starting to pump the dirt away from that land there, they took Midway away already. All the dirt from the Midway was gone on top of the dam. They had these huge pipes, and you'll see it in the
museum.
Where is it?
The museum.
Museum at Fort Peck.
Yeah.
That's where you'll see it. and they pumped that up there. And these things they had, they looked like kind of, they were, looked like beautiful homes in a way, but they were pumping away the dirt. And we'd hear on our house, chug, 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 chug. And that's what we'd hear. And when Valley got to be too dangerous, we had to move. So then we moved a mile north. We went to Parkdale, where we lived. By that time, I was going to school in Midway. I went back to Midway area, where I went to the 6th grade. And then after that, then I was in school in 7th and 8th grade, and that was in Park Grove. And while we was in school in Park Grove, that's when the dam slid. A terrible experience. There was about 5 of us lived in Parkdale, and we had, and the kid that had skipped school, he later on, he was always in trouble, a poor kid. He ended up in the penitentiary later on. But he dashed into the school and said the dam slid. So our teacher said, cork your bottles up. It was 11:30, and we had ink. So we had to cork the ink up. And it said, go for home. So there was 5 of us from Parkdale. So we dashed for home. And a car come leisurely by, guy says, where are you, why are you running? And he said, the dam slid. So he said, jump in. So we got in there and he took us right home. And right then, my dad was right then ready to leave with the truck and people on the back of the truck, ready to leave for higher ground. And they would have left without me, but I got there just in time before they left. So that was an experience. And you know, for years and years, I had nightmares about that. I'd think the dam was gonna slide or that the water was coming. It was a frightening experience for me. So that was one of the things there from Parkdale. So now when in Parkdale, there was going to, the chugging was coming there to eat away all the valley. It was coming to eat away at Parkdale. So we had to move the house. So we had to move into Park Grove. Dad moved the house into Park Grove. And by that time, I was in high school, and we stayed in Glasgow in a little house and went to school there. That's where I met him. And we were in the same class together. But see, that was in Parkdale, and then we moved into Park Grove and I was in high school. And but mother and dad, when we were through with high school, they moved into Fort Peck. Finally, they got into Fort Peck, where mother had running water, and she had a flush toilet, and it was wonderful for her. And what's so interesting, right now, my brother and sister-in-law have a home about a block away from where we had a house.
No, your son and daughter-in-law.
What?
Your son and daughter-in-law, Dean and Eileen.
Dean and Eileen.
Yeah, your son and daughter-in-law. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't know what all I have written down here, because I can't read it anyway. But
Well, you did a good job, Mom.
I was trying to think of that. Okay, that was my dad. It was in 1933 that he was on the first crew that went out to clean the brush. And so I don't know what more I can say about that.
I think you did a good job, Mom. You did good. You did a good job.